Hi subscribers and friends, my name is Shelby. I have not made one of these lettering the names of the month videos for about 3 years, but I want to finish the series. Today I'm going to focus on the word August, and we are going to look at the technique of using pointed felt tip pens. I'm going to use Tombow pens, and I will letter the word, and I will embellish it with different colors and show you how to line and shadow this word. The pens I'm going to use are Tombow dual tip, but we're only going to use the pointed pen part of it, the brush pen portion, and I'll start with the lightest color and go to the darkest, and then this is a shadowing color, it's gray, and I will use, this is also a Tombow, to put in the very fine lines on the word, and then we will use this, it's called a Molotow liquid chrome pen, and that will be used for decoration. Of course, pencil I use for lining, a good ruler, and an eraser for removing lines. I've pre-drawn the lines on a piece of, actually it's a scrap piece of Canson paper, and it is, today we're working with 1/2 inch lines for this size large Tombow water-based pen, and I've just drawn a little line up here so that I know how far to go up for my capital A. Just as a note for myself, I've written down the pens that I'm using so that if I ever want to go back and remember what I've done, there it is. Working with these Tombow pens, brush pens, they're very flexible tips, and you want to use the lightness and the pressure in order to get your thicks and thins. So with the word, with the capital letter A, I'm going to start swinging up this way. I'm going to come down like this with a lot of pressure, and then there are a lot of stops and starts when I write with this Tombow flexible brush pen. So here I'm going to start with the A, swoop up with the light line, and right here is where I'm going to start putting on the pressure, and you can see that I've got a lot of pressure. I'm using as maximum pressure as I can, and there's a lot of little touch-ups as you go along, so I'm going to swing up here, but I'm going to stop, and now I'm going to start with a lot of pressure as I make the U. Pressure, lightening up, swing up, lots of pressure again, lighten up, and I'm going to, for the G, I'm going to start right back here on the bowl of the G, and then come down with a lot of pressure, and push up, lots of pressure, lightening up, and on the G, I'm going to turn this paper a little bit, and I'm going to make the finish like that, and I will go in and touch up, and actually, even though this leaves a little bit of a darker color, it won't matter because I'm going to go back in with the decoration pen. So I'm touching up a little bit. Now I'm going to do the second U, and here's my pressure, lighten up, lots of pressure, and sometimes I make my S too small, so I'm going to try not to do that. I'm going to give lots of space in there. It turned out okay. And I'm going to finish up a little bit, bringing it up where I want my T to meet it. But I'm going to start up here. There's no real precise ductus on this. People do it different ways. This is how I do it, and I've basically adapted my personal italic to this. So you'll see online different ways of doing modern italic. Right. This is the T, lots of pressure, lightening up, and I even did a pen lift there. And I'm going to end up there. I'm going to go back and do some touch-ups. I want to have a line here. So there's that. And I'm going to turn my paper to do the crossbar of the T, which is going to go right on the line. But the crossbar for the A, I'm turning my paper and I'm going below the line, but I'm staying fairly parallel to it. So that is what it looks like on the first go, starting with the light color. I've already erased the lines because just in case when I do the shadows and things like that, I don't want the pencil lines to show through. And what I'm doing here is I'm just making a tiny pencil mark so that when I start the dark downward strokes, they're fairly even and not kind of starting at different points on the word. So I've got these marks where I am going to now come in with my dark colored turquoise pen, and I'm starting out with the same pressure, but I'm leaving some of the light color to show through, and I'm doing that on each letter. So heavy to light pressure. This is all fairly light pressure though, so light, heavier pressure and lightening up to go with the contours of the letter. Heavier pressure, lightening up so I come to a point. Heavier pressure, lightening up so I come to a point. Now I can come back in. Sometimes I like to darken up these hairlines as well. It just depends. In this case, I'll do a little touch up there, and even here, kind of need a steady hand, not too many cups of coffee in the morning before you start something like this. And the light is nice when it shows through a little bit. That's the first layer of decoration. The next layer of decoration I'm going to do is give this liquid chrome pen a good shake and make sure that it is working. And now I'm coming back in with the dots, which gives kind of a nice finish to the start of this darker into the lighter and gives it a more finished look rather than... What's nice about this chrome pen rather than just a silver pen is it really does have a very strong chrome look to it. I can leave it there for now, and I think I will, and come back and do the rest of the lines later. And instead, what I'm going to start in on is using this very light gray pen to make the shadows. The shadows are going to be on the from the left to the right, so in here, in here, in here, all the way through. So I'll just go ahead and make those shadows. I break it up there, come around again with the contours of the letter on the outside, on the outside. Now it's on the inside, and now it's on the outside, inside. I'm sure some of you are better at shading than I am. I'm going to come inside here and shade, and underneath this finishing stroke, back to the inside of the U, to the outside of the U. So I'm going on the thins sometimes, and sometimes I'm going on the thicks. Here I'm going to come in underneath, and I'm coming underneath there, and on the T it's on the outside, curving around a little bit on that curve, on the outside there, and underneath. Now it doesn't, I'm going to also do under the crossbar of the A, and under each one of these strokes here. Now it doesn't show very much, and you can use a darker pen if you like that. My tendency is to go in and instead do a couple layers of this lighter pen. Make sure your earlier layers are fairly dry, because otherwise the blue in this case will bleed a little bit, and sometimes that's okay. It depends on, this is informal work, usually reserved for things like somebody's name on an envelope or something like that, so it's not like it's something you can't just be playful with. So there is the shading. Now I can come back in and do the lining. It's hard to even notice sometimes, but the lining on this really makes the letter pop. I am using, you could use just about any felt tip pen that is very fine lined. I happen to like this one, but I've used many different pens. So I'm starting at the bottom, again following the contours. I'm skipping over the crossbar though, and I only go that far, not all the way around. I'm following the shadows, and you can be more or less, use the line more or less. I'm going to skip over where it actually crosses over the letter, because I just don't want to create too many lines. So I'm going at, you can go from the top to bottom. In this case I went from up from bottom to top. Sometimes it's just however your hand is steadiest. You can see how that makes it pop. I'm going to go under here, but I'm following the shading, the gray shading that I did. I'm going to add a little bit there. I could add just a little touch there. Up here. Lastly, I will come back in with the chrome pen, and on the finished piece, if you remember, I use dots and lines. You can get creative with all kinds of different shapes. I want to make sure that the beautiful colors show through, so I'm keeping it pretty simple. I'm just going to do a line up this way, a line. This dries pretty fast, so I'm not too worried about coming back in and smudging it. So I'm going to come down here and making slightly graduated, smaller and smaller. A little bigger, smaller, 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 smaller. Follows again the contours. I like to sometimes come back and put a little finishing dot there, maybe a little finishing dot there, and can do tiny dots here. It just picks it up in certain lights. It's not like you're trying to show every little mark, but in certain lights it sparkles. It's nice to put right there where the bar crosses. Just creates a little continuity. Put the line up there, a line there, a line there, and I don't don't know, I might just put up a few dots here, a line, graduated dots. And I can see a spot that I didn't quite finish, and I will finish that off. And I'd say that's the word August.